right, everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Lindsay Stewart Goldberg. I'm the education coordinator for the Three Village Historical Society. Thank you all for coming out to listen to Margo Arceri talk about some history of Kate Wheeler Strong and her personal ties to Kate Strong. So without further ado, Margo, take it away.
All right. So thank you, Lindsay, and Marty. I know you're traveling around somewhere into the whole Three Village Historical Society for having me today. It's a great honor to be here to speak about Kate, and that it's Women's History Month makes it even more important. I'll begin the little chat today, like I do every tour. Brookhaven Town historian Barbara M. Russell was interviewed for the local paper, and she said, "Lucky is the child who hears the story from an elder and cherishes it for years." She said that because I'm that child, because I first met Kate, who lived 2 houses away, when I was 7 years old. And we used to go to her home known as the Cedars and travel up these creaky, rotting steps with a strong descendant. And we would go visit cousin Kate. And she sat in her bedroom. She had a parrot in the corner, and she would tell us stories. And one of them was about Nancy and her magic clothesline. And I kind of was hearing as a 7-year-old about a female spy, fell in love with the story, and sort of took it through my childhood and started volunteering after college here at the society, chaired the walking tours. And then I had an idea to do a more active tour. So we launched Tri-Spy, and it's called Tri-Spy because it's a collaboration with a kayak company. And we play off a triathlon because we do a water version, a bike version, and a walking version. So we're going into our 11th year right now. So that's very exciting. So hopefully we'll get to see some of your faces in the coming season. But really, Kate impacted so many people in this community. She lived till she was 98 years old. She was blind the last 35 years of her life. We can't pinpoint an exact date, but somewhere around 1960, 1961, Kate went blind. But I'm going to pop up next some quotes that were written in all different papers for her obituary, which I think really speaks about the person that Kate was. So, barrier breaking and storytelling. Kate was a wonderful storyteller. Strong broke the barriers that got in her way, which is obviously talking the barriers she broke as a female. She held down the fort, and that's one of my favorite ones. And that's what she did. A living legend. And then I interviewed some of our local historians and family members to see how Kate impacted their lives. So we have their quotes here. So first one is Barbara M. Russell. I think the first time I met her was when I was a Girl Scout, maybe the early 1960s. She came to our meeting. Then it was held at the Setauket Presbyterian Church to speak about local history. I don't recall exactly what she said, but I think it was about growing up locally, going to school, living on Strong's Neck. I would say many of her local memories are priceless today. One of my favorite articles she wrote is about her family's trip to Port Jefferson. It was almost a day-long event, and the stores they visited are long gone. Anne Strong, which we have with us today, she's a special guest. She's brought an artifact of Kate's, which we'll take a peek at halfway through our presentation. I remember her fondly when she visited the boys. She loved to attend boys, meaning her son. She loved to talk about the ancestors going way back. She mentioned all the familiar families, the Hawkins, the Tylers, the Smiths, Randall Davis. Turns out Ben, which is Anne's son, and his wife Alex from way back New Jersey, they are connected by ancestors. And I love this quote. Cousin Kate said, "My dear, you will find everyone on Long Island is related." And quite a statement, and that's for sure. This is one of my dearest best friends who I used to travel to Kate's house with often. So this is Anne's son, Raymond Brewster Strong III. My childhood was always interesting with so much history in the area. One of the adventures I always loved to take was to trek through the woods to visit cousin Kate. We would go over to her house, the Cedars, and she would tell us stories of her adventures and of times past. And because she was blind, it carried more weight than a normal visit to other Strong relatives. So we have Bill Strong, who actually took over. Kate was did some volunteer work her family did, and we'll get into this as well today for the National Weather Service. So Kate lost her sight around the time I was born. My dad took over from her, and my earliest memories of the weather station revolve around him and my mother. I know that Kate took over from her father when he died in the 1930s, but by that time, my memory started to work, it was just my family doing the readings. And Beverly Tyler, our historian, is here today. Kate was a good friend of my grandmother's. I have fond memories of her telling stories at the M.S. Clark Library, being a member of the Stamp Club at the Stony Brook School, and participating in Vacation Bible School at the Setauket Presbyterian Church. She truly believed in the importance of oral history. It is significant because without oral history, we would not have any record of ordinary people. And this was extremely important for women. So quite a statement. Thank you, Bev. So now, we're just going to take you on a journey from Kate's childhood to her home. We'll talk about what she did in the local community, the weather recordings, and her true tales for the Long Island Forum. And I'll have Ann give a special little presentation, and she'd run us right around that half-hour mark. Okay, so this is Kate. I'm sorry for the quality of the picture as a young girl. And here's another photo of her. And what we're going to go through first are these family pictures. So Kate was born on March 21st in 1879, so just a few days away. And she passed away on July 22nd, 1977. She was born at the Cedars. It was built in 1879 by her father, Selah Brewster Strong, and the architect was Frederick Diaper. The home still stands, though it's no longer in the Strong family. And I'll just take you through some photos here. So that's Kate and her sisters. None of them married, only her brother William did. And that's what carried on the family name to Bill Strong, and now with young Will on that side of the family. So Kate wrote 38 little short stories for the Long Island Forum called The True Tales of the Early Days on Long Island. So I mentioned Nancy and Her Magic Clothesline. Barbara Russell mentioned The Trip to Port Jefferson. Every birthday, we would celebrate her birthday at the Cedars, her home, and they'd always serve strawberry shortcake. So hence your little strawberry shortcake cupcakes. There was 38 little short stories. She gave them out to neighbors and friends, and the M.S. Clark Memorial Library houses the entire collection in the Children's Library, where the Long Island collection is. So this is the family on an outing. And then just some more family photos. That's Kate when she still had her sight. And then some of the True Tales. So this is the old parsonage. That's a copy of the True Tales books. You can buy them on eBay. And as I said, the library has some. We do have for sale The Historian, which is our publication that we did for many years here. And it's full of Kate's short stories. So you guys can pick them up. They're $1 on the way out if you'd like. And that's the sketch that's on the front cover. Let's just go through this. So as I said, Kate held down the fort, and her entire writings on the Long Island Forum, were about history and local things. And that doesn't surprise me because Kate was born into history. She's the great-great-great-granddaughter of Anna Smith Strong. And that's the Anna from the famed clothesline, whether it's folklore, passed down through fame and history. It was certainly recorded, and people are fascinated with the story. And Kate really did a lot in terms of preserving that time period in this community and in the world. So if you've never read A True Tale, I certainly suggest that you do. The Strongs acquired the neck at auction after the Revolutionary War, when Andrew Seton had it for a time, and then when he didn't finish paying off the mortgage payments, it went up for auction, and the Strong descendants purchased it after the war. There are still Strong descendants on the neck. There's 6 families. 3 of the manor houses still stand. There was 4. One burnt down, but the St. George's Manor House, which is the 3rd manor home on the neck of St. George's Manor, still owned by the Strong family. So that's exciting. And that's Jack Strong, who was going to send us a quote, but he couldn't. Oops. So we're going to get into the manor homes. Let me just show you some older pictures of the Cedars. So that was the entrance. You see that same rock is still there. It just says private residence. And this was the original front door here. The kitchen was off to the left, and Kate's bedroom was in the back on the 2nd floor. And the interesting thing that Selah did is that burglaries and robberies and thieves was quite common in, you know, the late 1880s and 90s. So every room had an escape passage to another room. So you could lock off a room if somebody broke in and then escape another way. So, and this is a mini version of St. George's Manor House. So it has those same things. And the entire porch was glassed in. It no longer is. And the house is surrounded by cedars. So I always feel like that's the reason they called it the Cedars. And there's just another angle of it here. And there is Kate coming through the front door on her sled. One of my favorite true tales, it's talking about when Kate would go to services with her father. And at this point, the Strongs Neck Bridge was their only access on and off the bridge. And they always knew when the Strongs were coming because they heard the clickety clack on the bridge of the horse and carriage coming up the hill to the Setauket Presbyterian Church. So I always thought that must have been pretty neat. Obviously, the house fell in disrepair over many years. Anybody who's into paranormal investigations, I don't know if we have a little something in that window there, but I was looking at it when I put it together. I said, well, Carrie Ann Flanagan Brodsky would have a field day with this. I did work with her on her Ghost Stories of Long Island. And when we went into the Cedars, they did pick up a lot of EVPs. Jack Strong was with us, and we asked about the indigenous people, and Jack answered the question no. And then when we played them back in the studio, it says yes. So who knows, some of the spirits of the past were with us for sure. So I love this part of the home. So this is the back. So Kate's bedroom was right over here, but this building you see sticking out here was known as the museum, and it was always cordoned off with a gold little tassel rope, and we were never allowed in there as children. But Anne Strong, who's our special guest today, was allowed in the museum, and she brought an artifact for us. So I'm just going to pass it over to Anne Strong for a few minutes. Anne, if you'll come up and tell folks what you have and a little bit of your stories with Kate.
We used to love going over there to the house. My two boys were little when we used to go there. There's something a little bit spooky about it because she sat in a chair and she had a maid or a helper, Margaret. And Margaret was, I guess, Creole, and she didn't speak much English, and she was always really spooky to the boys.
And to me. Yeah.
It was fun to sit and listen to Cousin Kate. It was always a treat to go. We call her Cousin Kate because way back the Strongs are, you know, so many, so we call her Cousin Kate. So she had this room. I guess it was built.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
Called a museum. And it was full of this. The three things I do remember. She had the Civil War uniform of her nephew, Captain Wheeler Strong. And that was always there, and that was always something the boys would look at. Really, very, very interesting. He also had a Noah's Ark, an original old Noah's Ark that was all carved animals and things. I would love to see that now. Unfortunately, it was stolen because the was blind, and she had people come in and things were taken. It was too bad. So then she gave me something, and I was very, very pleased to have it. I would pass it around, but it is so fragile. As a matter of fact, when I pulled it out to bring it today, it fell apart again. This is a birch bark basket made by Native Americans, and it's embroidered, beautifully embroidered with porcupine quills. And so I've kept it all these years. Now, I think maybe when the new barn gets built, we'll try to have it restored somehow and put it in the new barn. So I'll just, if you can just look at some of the embroidery. Can you see that? I'll leave it here afterwards. You can take a look at it. Oh my goodness. But I don't want to pass it around.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
it's easier to see it here.
and it's probably 200 years old.
Did you photograph it, Margo?
See, we're gonna, on the side of the plastic. Yeah. I have one of those shadow box, so we can,
So that was.
yeah.
So it was always very interesting, and
Very artistic.
isn't it pretty?
Isn't that something?
Absolutely.
And, we miss Cousin Kate. We sure do.
Yeah. She used to tell me, you're gonna eat a bucket of dirt before you die. I finally get it. A couple other things neat about Kate. So she had breakfast every day at 9 a.m. And then her main meal was served at 12 every day in the main dining room. And that's all she ate for the day. And then when she went up to bed, usually around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, Margaret, who we spoke of, would make a little baggie up or a little plate of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And she would put them under her pillow. So if she got hungry during the night, she'd have a little peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I said, this is my kind of girl. Right? So Margaret was interesting to note. So I love that story about Kate. I mentioned Barbara M. Russell earlier. Her father, Dr. Sherman Mills, was her physician, and he said she never needed vitamins because she ate well. So I like that people's grandparents and parents were all touched by Kate. But the people that really she loved to touch, myself included, were the children. So she did a few things. One is she had a little storytelling time at the Emma S. Clark Library. So she told groups of children's stories, probably some of them about local things and from her true tales. If you were up to 8 years old, you typically would hear stories about Setauket and the surrounding areas. And if you were 8 to 12, you heard about the indigenous people in the early days of Setauket. So she targeted different groups at the library in her storytelling. And I know Bev remembers going to the Sunday school, but she also at the Stony Brook School had a stamp club. So she started the first stamp club there. One of the boys in the club, which I'll get to his story a little later on, was a young fella by the name John Michael Fanstone. And what she did for him is really just such a testament to the type of woman that she was. But the other big thing that Kate was known for, besides the true tales, was weather keeping. So this is a sketch of her father snowshoeing in the great blizzard of '88. We have a local Strongs Neck resident here, Rosemary Auld, who worked for the National Weather Service. So Rose really helped me a lot with dates and piecing things together in terms of a timeline of how the Strongs kept the weather record. So I am going to have to use my little cheat sheet, but Rose and I have been working on this. So the weather keeping, so this was so that's the back of the house, but they had it was considered a windmill, but it also helped with the weather keeping. And that was the original location of the weather station. And then it moved to Bill Strong's house. So this was in the rear of the house. But this is Kate taking a reading of the weather. So the first recorded weather was taken by her father, Celia Strong, on January 1st, 1885. On January 1st, 1932, Kate took over. And the last weather record that Kate took was in September of 1960. So we know she could still see by 1960. Bill Strong thinks it was around when he was born. He was born in 61. So we don't know the exact date that she went blind, but we're all kind of pinpointing that. And then Bill Strong, young Bill's father, took over up until, now I need those lights. So William Strong took over, thank you, until 1983, when young Bill took over, when his father passed away. And then from 1983, Sylvia and Bill did it together until Sylvia, that was Bill's wife, passed away in August of 1997. And then Bill sort of ran the station from 97 to 2017, but they missed some years. And then was also automated on December 6, 2017. It was declared inactive because of a lack of an observer. Sometimes the neighborhood kids would take the readings. I know that Ray and I did it a few times when we were young. And then on November 7th, 2022, the station was closed forever. But it was the longest running weather station in U.S. history up until that time. So I'm going to just show you we can turn those lights off again. And so these are some of the weather readings. Now, Rose, I thought you could point out a few of the highlights here that you thought was really interesting. I know that there was something about the lunar halo at the top here.
Yeah, one of the things I have found quickly as I've been going through the records is that she was exceedingly responsible about taking the records, and she took this role very seriously. And as I was telling Margo, there's no fluff in here. There really aren't many personal remarks. Everything you see there has to do with something that happened on a given day. And I know one of her records was, some concern that she was, giving the wrong amount and, keep an eye on this and that. And the lunar halo, she had that, observation any number of times. And we don't call it a lunar halo anymore, but the fact, to me, the fact that she wrote this and was aware of these and noticed them, also suggested to me that not only was she very responsible about this, but she was interested in science, or she wouldn't be doing this. It's been a very impressive
Yeah.
record.
And then I know you sent me this as well. And that was a recording from her father, Sheila Brewster Strong. So that's an actual page from the book. And this is a little back trail from the Cedars down to the water that Kate used to love to go down to. So sometimes they would take her down there. It was a little smoother. And there's quite a few of her short stories. She talks about going to the end of the jetty and sitting. And I can just imagine, like, growing up on Strong's Neck, how magical my childhood was. I think the entire neck, whether, it was in 1655 or, 2023, there's something special and magical about the neck. And I think it's always been impacted by strong women. I'm going to one day write a little short story about true tales of strong women, because there's certainly been some strongs over the years. So this is the barn where Kate kept her horses and her father. And now Bill Strong owns it and maintains it. I have some neat pictures of the upper barn. So we actually saw there's a portion of this cart here, and I think I have a better one in one of the photos earlier. So this is when they were keeping horses there. And there's Kate with her carriage. So that was in the barn there. And here she's outside with her horse, Smokey. So she really loved the animals. The Strong's Neck Bridge. So that was a cordwood bridge. And there's some old photos that we'll see next that have the schooners loading up here. You can really see the lack of trees. I always try to point that out as well. When we're on tours and we're talking about the Battle of Setauket, and it's like, there's so many trees in the way. I said there weren't a lot of trees back then. Ships, cooking, homes, so warmth. But I love that old. So I always think when I see this photo of that clickety clack of Kate and her family heading up to church services at the Setauket Presbyterian Church. So let's get to really neat part of Kate's story. So there is a cemetery on Strong's Neck. I actually learned a few years back on a tour, if the burial plot's next to a church, it's a graveyard. No church, a cemetery. So the St. George's Manor Cemetery. There's only Smiths or Strongs there, except for one person. So Kate, as I said, was a Sunday school teacher. She also ran the stamp club. And during the war, unfortunately, one of the young gentlemen who was part of the club fell ill and passed away. And he was from England. His name was John Michael Fanstone. And because of the war was going on, it really wasn't feasible to bring his body back home. And I love this about Kate. It's still an active cemetery, but she offered up one of her plots in the family plot. And when I take tours there, found records in a paper of what the family reacted, how they reacted when they walked into the cemetery. I have to imagine about maybe 20, 25 feet past the entry gate, they got hit with it. And what I mean hit with it is its beauty, its peacefulness, its history. And they asked if he could stay. And Kate, being the person that she was, she agreed. So we have Kate here, and you see in the background, we'll have a closer look. But there is John Michael's headstone. And then here is the front of it. So I think, I want to finish with this story because it is, again, such a testament to the type of person Kate was. I met her as a 7-year-old, and I only knew her for 2 years. And obviously, it grabbed me at such a young age. And it's grabbed so many people. Bev, I have to think that, Kate touched you over the years and inspired you, to be inspired with local history. I know she's touched our Brookhaven town historian, Barbara Russell, and many of you. So, I think that her memory and her legacy lives on, so deeply still in the Strong family. And I think from above, she still is holding down the fort and, keeping the history alive, because we have new generations of Strongs who are hearing about the family stories and they're falling in love with it and they are carrying on. I know that your grandchildren, some of the young ones, when they were little, I told them stories, and now a few of them they're grabbing onto the history. And that's, as you said as well, Bev, like oral history is just so, so important. And it has to be passed down from generation to generation because not everything, is recorded. And without that, it will be lost. So here we are. We did a plaque because, obviously, Mark, I know you're here, that Sheila Strong played an active role in the club perspiring. So we did have a plaque made to honor Sheila. So this is at the Strong Family Cemetery. So we put a plaque up. So we have Sheila here on the left, Anna Nancy Strong, which most people refer to her as, on the right, and most of the Strong descendants that are here. So we have, Jack Strong, Ray Strong, Will is there, Ann, you're there. So it's nice that the family got together and are still embracing, the Strong stories. And so then that's just, if you want to come on a tour sometime, tickets are now on sale. But I figured I will, see if anybody had any questions as we wrap up things. I want to keep it at the half-hour mark. So does anybody have any questions?
I was able to make contact with a Vanstone. I got intrigued with the Michael Vanstone stone
Right.
some years ago when I looked at it. And I don't remember what my correspondence was. I should pull it out.
Yeah.
If I can find it, because I did even contact a relative in England and had a little email.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, person. Yeah.
wow. That's excellent. Yes. Oh, yes. Rose.
What about the stamp collection? Is there any collection that has remained?
I know that the children had $1 a month was their allotment for the club. So Kate had to kind of scour catalogs and areas to try to get enough stamps with that $1 allotment. She didn't get paid for the position at the Stony Brook School. Does the library have, all of her papers and documents and letters and artifacts that was left at her passing were donated to the Three Village Historical Society. And it's in our archives. I know they have over, I think, 3,500 photos, 1,500 letters. Yeah, at the Emma Clark Library. So I know if anybody wants to donate to build that barn, it'll be moved over here a little quicker. But the entire collection will be moved here once the Crawford barn is finished. So we're excited for that. But they have massive amount of things donated by Kate's family. Yes, Lee.
The story with young boy Vanstone, it had repercussions not only on the island, but I had sent you an article that appeared in the New York Daily News that they had a whole story and photo delving into him and how he was allowed to be buried
There.
in this family plot dating back to the 1700s.
So yes.
You mentioned Dr. Sherman Mills.
Yes.
Can you tell me again the connection?
That was Kate's physician. So
Oh.
Dr. Mills was Kate's physician, and he said she didn't need any vitamins, that she was healthy as a horse.
Barbara Russell's father.
That's Barbara Russell's father, yeah. So our town historian.
He has a house on
Shore Road.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Big White House.
yeah. Anyway, so if you guys have not read a True Tales, they're $1 as you're on your way out. You can pick up the historian. Yes, Bev.
Not only are there 6 articles by Kate in the dollar book, but in the back of it is a listing of every one of her true tales.
Tales.
Okay, good.
So they're all
That's
there.
good to know.
And that gives you can look at the names of them, and then you can go to the library and read them at the library.
Yeah, again, they're housed in the children's room, which is interesting. But,
We
yeah.
also have extra copies of the Long Island Forum that we have for sale as well.
Yeah, so, well, you guys have been wonderful. I mean, obviously, big round of applause to the Three Hills Historical Society for keeping our local history alive. And thank you to all of you who took this time out on a little bit of a chilly Saturday, but you know, I always tell the young people, ask the questions, you know, ask your elders, you know, write it down. So it's just so important to carry on, you know, the family traditions and, you know, record them. I know during COVID, Marty and I interviewed probably 12 people in the community. We're still waiting to do Hub. So we have to wait for a nice warm day and do it outside. But, you know, their stories are invaluable, you know, and if you know, you don't know your past, how are we supposed to know where we're headed? So again, you know, teach your children and your relatives and your friends and the young people to ask the questions and write it down or record it and take the pictures because it's so very important.
Was she ever recorded?
Kate, no, no, not that I mean, you might know better than I don't believe, I've never come across
Yeah.
any recording I mean, I spent hours in the archives and obviously my whole life I've been asking questions of the Strong family. So anyway, well, thank you all so very much.